The prize for passengers was supposed to be life-changing, seeing firsthand the most iconic shipwreck in history, the Titanic. Sadly, the outcome for all 5 people on board the OceanGate submersible, Titan, was life-ending. Somewhere along the journey, 3.8 kilometres down into the hostile depths of the North Atlantic Ocean, catastrophe struck. As you'll see tonight, there are lessons to be learned from this tragedy, and they're brutal. This wasn't an adventure. Like the Titanic, it was a disaster just waiting to happen.
People are so enthralled with Titanic that there are 3 words in the English language that are known throughout the planet, and that's Coca-Cola, God, and Titanic.
It's nothing short of a deadly irony. Wealthy, adventure-seeking explorers never returning from the gravesite of a ship once thought to be unsinkable. If the Titanic was the ultimate lesson in human hubris, the debacle of the submersible, known as Titan, is a tragic epilogue. 5 men sealed inside the sub, operated by OceanGate's maverick CEO, Stockton Rush, a man determined to test the limits of human ambition.
He definitely knew it was going to end like this. He quite literally and figuratively went out with the biggest bang in human history that you could go out with. And who was the last person to murder 2 billionaires at once and have them pay for the privilege?
Tonight, what drove Stockton Rush to disaster and why he refused to listen to those warning him of catastrophe.
They were diving in something which really was a ticking time bomb.
So you were not surprised?
No, I can't say that from a technical standpoint I was surprised. That's why we tried so hard to prevent it.
Nearly 4 kilometres under the ocean is arguably no place for humans. It's freezing cold, pitch black, and there's no oxygen. Rob McCallum knows better than most the allure of the deep. A world leader in extreme submersible operations, he's headed up multiple expeditions to the Titanic site. What do you think it is about the Titanic? Is it the romance? Is it the tragedy that humanity is endlessly obsessed with?
Yes, I think it's a turning point in maritime history. Here was a machine, one of the largest ever built, the fastest ever built, the sort of pride and joy of human engineering. And Mother Nature changed our attitude and in a single blow told us that we're not the masters of the universe. Nature is very much in control.
Hi, my name is Stockton Rush. I'm the CEO and founder of OceanGate. Let's take a look at Titan.
The Titan was an SUV-sized submersible. On the 18th of June, it began its 3rd descent to visit the Titanic wreck. But just 1 hour and 45 minutes later, the crew lost communications with its mothership and the world tuned in to their plight. On board was legendary Titanic expert Paul-Henri Nargeolet, billionaire explorer Hamish Harding, Pakistani businessman Shahzada Dawood and his teenage son Suleiman, and OceanGate's boss, Stockton Rush.
Taking a completely new approach to the sub design, and it's all run with this game controller and these touch screens. So if you want to go forward, you press forward. If you want to go back, you go back, turn left, turn right, go down, go up. And it's Bluetooth, so I can hand it to anybody. And it's meant for a 16-year-old to throw it around, and super durable. We keep a couple of spares on board just in case.
I think Stockton was designing a mousetrap for billionaires.
Wow.
Yeah.
From the shores of Honduras, tourist submarine operator Carl Stanley swings between grief and anger over a tragedy he describes as preventable and inevitable. Stockton Rush had been a friend. Back in 2019, Carl was one of the first to set foot inside the doomed Titan on a test dive in the Bahamas. What did you experience during that dive?
Well, I would say every 3 to 4 minutes there was loud gunshot-like noises. It's a heck of a sound to hear when you're that far under the ocean in a craft that has only been down that deep once before.
Carl was convinced those noises were the carbon fibre hull slowly cracking, and he immediately raised his concerns with Stockton Rush in a series of heated calls and emails, writing, "There is an area of the hull that is breaking down. It will only get worse." Carl also felt Rush had a disturbing lack of operating experience, and he told him so in no uncertain terms.
No, I literally painted a picture of his wrecked sub at the bottom, and even that wasn't enough.
You've been building deep sea submersibles since you were a teenager. You've got thousands of hours experience in piloting these craft. In your expert opinion, what was the fatal flaw of the Titan?
There's no doubt in my mind that it was the carbon fiber tube that was the mechanical part that failed.
And that's what you believe you heard essentially cracking?
Correct.
Titan was the only commercial submersible in the world with a hull made from carbon fibre composite.
Carbon fiber is coated with rhino liner, which is sort of what the military uses. It stops water penetration.
That's because the rest of the industry considers the lightweight material not up to the job, incapable of withstanding extreme deep sea pressure. But for Stockton Rush, the extra space meant he could fit more passengers on board.
You know, I've broken some rules to make this. I think I've broken them with logic and good engineering behind me. The carbon fiber and titanium, there's a rule you don't do that. Well, I did. It's picking the rules that you break that are the ones that will add value to others and add value to society. And
They were so proud of flaunting the accepted norms. And if you're going to flaunt an accepted norm, you really need to know what you're doing. And I wasn't convinced that that level of expertise was there.
Rob McCallum worked with OceanGate as a consultant early on, but was alarmed by the company's experimental approach.
Join the crew of the Titanic survey expedition.
And when Stockton Rush announced his plan to take passengers to dive the Titanic in an unclassed submersible, Rob quit. Stockton Rush once said, "If you're not breaking things, you're not innovative." I mean, is there truth to that in your industry, or is that just reckless?
Completely reckless. I mean, it's great fun breaking world records. I mean, I just love it. But they don't count if everybody doesn't make it home.
Rob wasn't alone in his concerns. By 2018, the submersible community had become so distressed by Stockton Rush's apparent disregard for safety standards that 36 industry experts wrote to OceanGate, warning catastrophe was looming unless changes were made.
This is a 5-man submersible.
That same year, the company's chief pilot, David Lockridge, was fired and sued for raising a long list of safety concerns.
If someone raised a safety concern, as the chief pilot did, they were not only not listened to, they were silenced. That is such a toxic culture when it comes to safety. And it's the reverse of everything else I know in the maritime industry.
The Titan operated in lawless international waters.
Copy that.
OceanGate called passengers mission specialists, and while some on board were indeed deep-sea experts, others were thrill-seeking tourists.
First time in a submarine, it looks really cool in here too.
Crucially, the sub wasn't independently certified or classed. Customers signed a company waiver before boarding the Titan. It mentions the possibility of death at least 8 times.
The game changes when you put paying passengers in there, because you can't do that unless there is consent. And people can't consent to something that they don't really understand.
And the ocean doesn't care if you're a millionaire.
No, I mean, the pressure at 4,000 metres is unrelenting and unforgiving. I mean, you know, you don't get wounded at 4,000 metres. You come home in one piece or you don't come home at all.
We will drift down, we will hit the bottom, we'll have communications.
You still pumping? Yeah. What do you have?
If Rob McCallum paints Stockton Rush as reckless in his ambition, blinded by his passion, Carl Stanley goes a step further, insisting Rush must have known it could only end like this. So you're saying he had a death wish?
The only question in my mind, the only question is when. He was risking his life and his customers' lives to go down in history. He's more famous now than anything else he would have ever done.
It's a stunning allegation from someone who knew Stockton Rush and his sub well. But OceanGate insists what many saw as reckless was necessary to further humanity's understanding of the final frontier.
I feel like as co-founder, I do have to stand up for the fact that I feel that what we were doing was right and was heading in the right direction.
Well, there must have been something wrong with it, because 5 people are dead.
Racing to find the missing dive vessel that is.
It was the macabre countdown the world couldn't turn away from.
At this point, it could be anywhere from about 54 to 80 hours of oxygen left.
As we waited and wondered about the fate of those on board the missing Titan submersible.
Repeated banging has been picked up on sonar equipment.
Headed for the magnificent, ghostly remains of the Titanic.
As an expert we spoke to says that window of opportunity is quickly closing.
After an exhaustive 5-day search,
I offer my deepest condolences.
The US Coast Guard declared what many industry insiders, like Rob McCallum, had already surmised. The sub had suffered a catastrophic implosion.
The whole volume of the submersible collapses in about 2 milliseconds. And it takes 25 milliseconds for the human brain to detect a threat. So it's not so much that you die, it's that you cease to exist. It's almost the perfect end.
Attention and scrutiny quickly turned to the Titan's pilot, OceanGate co-founder and CEO Stockton Rush, who for years brushed aside red flags raised by colleagues and passengers about the safety of Titan. Guillermo Sunline knew him better than most.
Very intelligent, very funny guy. I think most people don't realize what a comedian he actually was. But very capable engineer, very passionate about oceans and ocean exploration.
The friends and business partners co-founded OceanGate in 2009 with a shared vision.
The ocean is just so big and we know so little about it. And so for us, it was really about giving humanity access to these assets that could take everybody down into the ocean.
Guillermo left the company 10 years ago, but remains a shareholder and a loyal supporter. He now finds himself in the awkward position of defending the man responsible for the only submersible implosion in history. Was Stockton Rush a reckless villain, or was he an innovator, an explorer, a rule breaker with a vision?
I think the term reckless is not something I would ever associate with Stockton or with OceanGate, at least while I was there. It's almost the exact opposite of that. He's been kind of portrayed as this risk taker, maverick, who would just, disregard safety for the sake of innovation itself. But that is not the person that I knew. He was very risk averse. And I've never, in the 3.5 years that he and I worked together, I never saw him take unnecessary risks.
Isn't taking paying passengers on an unclassed sub, about which there have been several safety warnings, down to the Titanic, an unnecessary risk?
I know 2 of the other 4 crew members that were lost would cringe if they were being labeled as tourists or passengers. They considered themselves explorers. They considered themselves part of the crew. They considered that their financial investment was going toward scientific research and exploration of the oceans.
But when you have people who had heard cracking noises in the Titan, people who are engineers saying these materials aren't appropriate, your testing isn't appropriate, surely that points to a huge safety risk.
Well, the popping noise is expected in carbon fiber hulls. That was in prior hulls, not in the one that dove a couple weeks ago. Things were fixed. So I think it's still premature to even address these kinds of questions.
Well, there must have been something wrong with it, because 5 people are dead.
Well, we don't know exactly what happened. It could have been a number of different things that caused the implosion.
And when we want to go down...
The way Guillermo sees it, others in the industry, through competitiveness or perhaps lack of foresight, had been trying to stifle OceanGate's innovative plans for years.
I do share the concerns about the risks that were taken, but I try taking a longer-term view of everything.
But do you concede that if he had have stopped and heeded some of the warnings, he may still be alive today?
Potentially. If he had done nothing, he and the crew members may still be alive, but then again, humanity may still be stuck not knowing anything about the world's oceans.
As the families of those killed grieve, last week, OceanGate suspended all exploration and commercial operations. While the watery graves of the Titanic and the Titan are now forever tragically entwined, it's likely deep-sea tourism will recover from this catastrophic setback. But Rob McCallum hopes the Titan's voyage will be the last of its kind.
It's a big ocean out there. There are over 1 million shipwrecks. I would like to think that exploring wrecks and exploring the deep ocean is something that's going to continue. But I think in terms of Titanic, we probably have all the material that's ever going to be needed. She's been the subject of many books, countless movies and documentaries. Maybe it's time to bid her adieu.
Hello, I'm Amelia Adams. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for our brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minute segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.